best memory from the StokerCon?
Oh, I guess just all the new people I met here. It's really a highlight for me. This is my first StokerCon ever, so it's kind of like a whole different group of writers. And that was, some friends were here, but it was nice to meet a bunch of new people. For upcoming writers, I never give advice. I never give advice because I think the people who are going to be writers are like me and they know it. They know it very early. I started writing when I was 9 and I knew I wanted to be a writer. And I think people who are really going to be writers know that and they don't need somebody to tell them to read or to write every day because they love it already and they do it.
This is a person who's authored probably some of the greatest middle grade and even younger collections of horror, and you may not know it, also thrillers, also comedy, also science fiction, and he's just basically entertained a generation and a half of us. So please welcome Mr. RL Stine.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't know, I'm having sort of a down morning. A woman stopped me in the casino this morning and she said, "Did anyone ever tell you you look a lot like RL Stine?" No offense. No offense. That's not good, right? And now I got this fan letter. This is a real fan letter. It's real, see? From a girl. It says, "Dear RL Stine, I love your books. You're like the scariest man on earth. I want to know everything about you. Do you have hair?" Love, faith. That's one of the nicest things is actually the fan mail. I get wonderful mail from kids, and some of it is pretty funny. And maybe you'd like to hear. These are some real letters that I've gotten from kids. I'm not making it up. Dear RL Stine, I don't know if you remember me or not, but when you came to my school, I'm the one who stepped on your foot. I do remember that kid. I'm a big fan of your Fear Street books. I've read 21 of them. I've just one question for you. Why do they end without making sense? Dear R.L. Stine, you are my second favorite author. That was the whole letter. That was it. Talk about keeping you in suspense, right? Dear R.L. Stine, oh, this was from an adult. This actually was a Facebook message from an adult woman. I was inspired to write a story called The Ghost Flight, but I don't know how to start it or what the plot is. Since you're an expert on these stories, right, I was hoping you could figure out a plot and start it for me. That's nice, right? It's like one kid wrote and he said, I really hated the ending for Horrorland #8. Do you have an alternate ending you could send me? People expect so much now, I think. Dear R.L. Stine, I'm your biggest fan. I read your books so much, I need my parents to escort me to the bathroom. In the 18th book of Goosebumps Horrorland, one character you wrote about described me perfectly before I got my haircut. Did you possibly see me somewhere and get the idea for that character from my appearance? That's a weird one, right? Maybe you've heard me tell my all-time favorite letter. From all these years, this is my favorite from a boy. Dear R.L. Stine, I've read 40 of your books, and I think they're really boring. It's perfect, right? I thought I'd answer some questions that I'm always at. First, I'm going to add creepy monster jokes. And I did a humor magazine for 10 years called Bananas. And this is kind of an embarrassing story to tell, but the reason how I got scared, I was having lunch one day with a friend of mine, an editor at Scholastic. And she said she had just had a fight with a teen horror novelist, a teen horror writer, and she was really angry, and he will remain nameless, Christopher Pike. And she said, "I'm never working with him again. You could write a good teen horror novel. Go home and write a novel called Blind Date." She even gave me the title. And I was at that point in my career, where you don't say no to anything, right? You always just say yes. And I said, "Oh, sure, no problem." I didn't know what she was talking about. What's a teen horror novel? So I ran to the bookstore, and Lois Duncan was writing them, and Richie Tankersley Cusick, and all these people, and read them and tried to figure out what to write. And I wrote this book, Blind Date, and it came out, and it was a #1 bestseller. Where I'd never been near that list. It was my funny, I said, forget the funny stuff, and I've been scary ever since. So it's kind of embarrassing because it wasn't my idea. But I'd always enjoyed horror, and I never planned to write it. And I like horror because it's so close to humor. Horror always makes me laugh. And if you go to a horror movie, and the shark, you go walk in the movie and the shark comes up and chews up a girl, that's me in the theater laughing. I don't really get scared. There's something like missing in my brain. I don't get scared from movies or books, but it always makes me laugh. And I think it's a very close visceral reaction that you have to both humor and horror. When you jump out at somebody and say, "Boo!" the person gasps, right? And then laughs. I think it's just very closely connected. And that's why I enjoy horror so much. And I, of course, try to get a lot of funny stuff, especially in Goosebumps. When Goosebumps starts to get really scary, I put in something funny. Because I don't really want to terrify kids. Not too much. The actual truth, you can make up a lot of things about how to get ideas. Everyone has an answer, not a good answer.
We usually have 10 or 12, depending on the situation.
Well, yeah.
You get tired of answering the same way every time.
That's true. But I actually don't try to think of ideas. I never think of ideas. I only think of titles. If I get a good title, then it leads me to the story. And that's all I think about. I never try to think of, what if a vampire did. I always just try to think, what would be a good title? And a while ago, I was walking my dog in Riverside Park in New York, and these words just flashed into my head. Little shop of hamsters. Where does it come from? I don't know where it came from. But then you start thinking, hamsters. How do you make hamsters scary? That's the challenge, of course. What if there are like thousands of them? Or what if there's a giant hamster? And then that's the way I get ideas. It always starts out, one day these words popped into my head, say cheese and die.